What's the nature of your emergency?
Exactly.
Good morning, police, fire, military, and families, and to everybody who is listening in on the Tactical Living podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Welton, joined this morning by my beautiful new friend, Miss Kathleen Trotter. Kathleen, how are you?
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. And we were chatting before. I feel like you're my new fast friend. We were laughing. I love laughing. And anyway, I'm excited to be here.
Good morning, everybody. I love the aesthetics of your gym in the background. I'm going to have to send you a picture of ours too. I love home gyms. We can talk about that at another time, but I think that there's much more benefit to having something like this set up at your house. But I wanted to bring you on because I was asked to interview you. And when I'm reading through your profile, good morning, everybody, I couldn't help but pause and realize that you're teaching fitness in a way that I have never seen somebody else teach it. And it's something that aligns with everything that we do at my coaching practice, Leo Warriors, which is focusing on the mindset. And when we think of hiring a personal coach or a trainer, we don't usually think about mindset. It's all about, how many days and reps do we need to put in at the gym? How many macros? What should my diet look like? And your approach is completely different. Good morning, everybody. So I was just admiring her gym as well. Yeah, I know. It's awesome. And so I think it's so cool for...
Give it a little bit. There you
go. Love it. I think it's so cool for us to be able to touch on that today. So that's what we're going to be chatting about. And Kathleen, if you can hold up those books for us, please.
Oh, yeah. Any Kathleen, opportunity.
She is a fitness expert, a personal trainer, life coach, and an author. And she's going to be gifting out these 2 books. So we're going to give it away to 2 people. Whoever comments the first questions inside of the chat right now, we'll make sure to address those. And then Kathleen will send those to you. I'm on my cool down walk. I love it. That's perfect timing. So if you could just talk to us a little bit about your methodology and how you weren't always this into fitness.
No, yeah. So mindset's critical because, listen, Derek Sivers has this quote, if knowledge was enough, we'd all be billionaires with 6-pack abs, right? Like, so we know, eat more vegetables, drink more water, move more, sleep more, but knowing and doing in all of life, but particularly with health and wellness, is so hard. So most people who come to me, they basically know the captain obvious things that they should be doing, but it's really hard. Like, life is hard. What I say to my clients is humaning is hard. And we have so many different things that we're trying to juggle. There's just so many moving parts, and it's easy to put our family first. It's easy to put, you've had a really long day at work. So it's like, well, I'm just going to stay up and, video game or watch a bunch of television because it feels good in the moment. And then the next day you can't get up to do your workout because you're tired. Like, it's easy to put momentary desires and momentary life realities ahead of, long-term sustainable health and wellness, even though ultimately if we don't have our health, like, what do we have? We can't be, there and present for everyone else in our life. So I really work with my clients on mindset and strategies to turn their health wishes into goals and to connect the dots between wanting and doing. And I do that for people because I've been there. The first half of my life, my parents got divorced. I'm like 6 feet tall and I was awkward in my body, and my mom was a single mom and we moved around, and I hated being Kathleen. I hated being in my own skin. And I was constantly in this tug of war in my brain of you should work out, you're fat. And then this but I don't want to, I'm embarrassed. I don't want to leave the house. I want to stay in bed. And there was this constant cycle of shame and being rude to myself and belittling myself. And none of that worked. And I just went more and more into my pattern of feeling like crap. And most of it was because I didn't have the mindset. I didn't have the tools to sort of say to myself, yeah, you're having a bad day, but a bad day doesn't make a bad life. And if you want to create your fitter future self, which is the name of my second book, your fittest future self, that starts today. And so what do I do today that is going to create the future me? So I just really, truly, I believe in mindset. I believe in mindset is how, literally how your mind is set. So your perspective, how you look at the world, but also how then you look at yourself and how you talk to yourself, and how you basically parent yourself, right? Most of us are so much better to our kids. We schedule fitness into our child. I see this with my clients. I'm not a mom, but so many of my clients are parents, and they will schedule ballet and soccer and baseball into their kids' lives. And they will, pack snacks, and they're so everything about their child's life is so taken care of and so healthy. And then they don't apply the same skills to themselves. And so much of that is a mindset mindset thing. So I don't know, that's a really, really long answer, but basically mindset and how you talk to yourself and how you think is connecting the dots between wanting and doing. And with health and wellness, it's so easy to want. I've been there. I've wanted so badly to be fit, and I've wanted so badly to respect myself. And it took a lot for me to get to where I am today. So I don't know. How does that land with you? Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, I think that's awesome, because when we're born, up until the time that we essentially move out of our house, and even a little bit after that, we have some control, some kind of authority over us, right? We have our parents, we have our teachers, we have, our bosses, and we get older, we go to college. We have all of these external forces that are like putting the discipline on us. So I loved the sense of parenting yourself in the way that you just said. I forgot to mention, we're doing another giveaway of our Grunt Style Stop Whining t-shirt, which I think is an amazing t-shirt. So whoever comments the most within 24 hours, I'm going to send that to you. Make sure to drop your questions right now for Kathleen. Yeah. I know. Well, it's perfect for this interview.
Yeah, it's perfect for how you talk to yourself, right? Because that's part of it, is it's this really delicate balance of, so I have a group coaching course and I call it Kick Your Ass with Compassion. And I think that that's the trick about mindset and how you talk to yourself, is this really delicate balance of really holding yourself accountable and not whining. As my mom used to always say when I was a kid, like, stop whining. She used to always say, she would get, Kathleen, stop. And then I would have to say whining, because she hated when I did that. And then she'd say, and there always is and then I would say solution. And that's really how I work with my clients as well. It's like, okay, so you don't like this, GPS your health. If that's your destination and there's all these traffic jams, and meaning you can't do, plan A, plan B, plan C. So what is plan D? Like, how do you find these solutions? How do you talk to yourself in a way that allows yourself to find the solution? And so that is that balance between, you have to have compassion. So you have to talk to yourself kindly and like you're a parent who loves yourself. But you also have to hold yourself accountable. So compassion is not like, oh, well, who cares? Like, I'm just not going to work out today. It's like, no, I respect myself and I love myself enough to say, okay, a meeting came up and I wasn't able to get to the gym. So can I walk on my conference call? Can I take my kids to the park and play a sport? Can I do some calisthenics while I'm on the floor, with my grandkids, or like whatever it is? Like, what is the solution? How can you find a way? Because something is always better than nothing. And getting out of that sort of belittling self-talk that you just, you're sort of just borrow more and more into your sort of self-hatred and your self-loathing, that just, it doesn't help. So you have to kind of find a way to get out of that cycle. And
good morning to you too. Whoever drops 2 questions down below, we're going to send each of you one of Kathleen's book. And if nobody does, then she's just going to send them to me. So I just want to put that out there.
Kathleen, if anybody has a question that they don't feel comfortable in the chat or they think of later, you can email me through my website. Like, I love hearing from people. This, honestly, health and wellness literally changed my life. And I went from somebody who would walk into a room sort of hunched over. I felt I did not like being Kathleen. And listen, I'm not perfect now. I do not claim to be perfect. I make mistakes all the time, but I am able to walk into a room and feel like worthy of being there. And I think that's the difference. Like, when I make a mistake, it's not an indication of my identity. I'm not a bad person, which is what I used to feel like when I was growing up. If I didn't, my mom would say, like, you have to take ballet, and I'd go to ballet and I'd hate it. And I would lie to get out of ballet class or lie to get out of gym class. And I felt like I was this bad person who wasn't worthy. And now it's like, I make mistakes and I'm like, yeah, okay, how do I learn from the mistake? Like, it's just, I don't know, being active changed my mindset, it changed my life. And so if I can help anybody in any part of their journey in that, I would love to.
Thank you. So you talked about the GPS strategy, and I know that you have a different approach when it comes to finding your own fit. So if we can break this down into a tangible form for everybody that's listening, what does it mean to find your own fit?
Basically, stop with the comparison game. It is so easy on Instagram and social media to be like, oh, well, my favorite celebrity is doing this, or my father or my mother. All that matters is what works for you. So if you want to go to a gym, that's great. If you want to work out, that's at home, that's great. If you want to take a dance class, a sport, if you want to take yoga at home, like, you got to stop comparing sort of other people's makeup, done up, fake faces to your own inner world. It's so easy because we feel our own we see our own warts, we feel our own insecurities so strongly. And then we compare ourselves to this imaginary perfect that's out there that just, like, perfect doesn't exist. So instead you have to say, what is sustainable for me and what is something that I will do now, knowing that now can change. So if you walk for 10 minutes now, that can turn into 20 minutes, which can turn into like running, which can turn into weights. But if you don't do the now, you don't have anything to tweak. You don't have anything to work on. One of my favorite books is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he talks about the idea that you have to standardize before you can optimize. So you need to standardize that you can move and that you do move, and then you can optimize how you move after that. But you have to say, like, moving is a non-negotiable, but how I move is up to me. How I move depends on my fit. So, my story with that is that, as I've already said, I hated being active. And eventually what my mom said was, okay, here's the thing. So far, we've tried to make you be fit based on like the things that normal, quote unquote, people your age do: ballet, gym class, softball. She's like, I just think that you're more comfortable with people who are sort of older than you. And so let's take you to the YMCA. The demographic is like over 40 and under 5. And let's walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes. And that's what I started with. And honestly, then that turned into 20 and some weights. And then it turned into me taking aerobics, which turned into me teaching aerobics, which turned into me going to university for like to become like kinesiology. And then I did a master's. But it was all of this thing that like I started where I was, and I found my fit in that moment. And before that, my fit, everyone was trying to make me fit like a square peg into a round hole, because it was like, well, kids your age do this. And it's like, yeah, well, when you try to make me do what kids my age do, I lie and I pretend I'm sick and I don't go and I like half-ass it. So I would just really challenge anybody listening to be like, okay, in the past, what have I done that I've actually enjoyed? What is realistic for me now? Like if you're in a season of your life where you have multiple children or you're working a crazy job, maybe now is not the time to, go to the gym for 2 hours a day. Maybe now is the time to work out at home or be what I call a busy multitasker, which is like you take your conference calls as you walk. You walk at work, you go to the park with your kids, and as they're playing soccer, you do push-ups and lunges. And so you have to figure out what your fit is in this moment, based on your life realities, your financial realities, your injury history, your goals. Like, what is fit for you? So I don't know I don't know, what's your fit? Like, what kind of stuff do you like to do? Can you give an example, like what's sustainable and enjoyable for you?
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate because I have germophobia, and I say I'm fortunate because of that. Because throughout the past 20 years or so, I've accumulated an abundance of workout equipment. My gym is nicer than most gyms that you can go and pay a monthly fee for. But right now I bought the mirror. So the mirror is
connected. So curious. Yeah.
Connected to an app, and they just partnered with Lululemon. And so there's thousands and thousands of different programs that you can go on. So for me, my fit is actually getting outside of my fitness zone and experimenting with different things like bar and dance and things that I don't typically do, because I'm usually like cardio and weightlifting. We have a question on here. Whoever just said this, 100%. I remember Facebook isn't real. I'm giving you a big fat kiss on your cheek right now. Okay, so I guess one question I used to have is, how do you break the negative mindset? Personally, I was lucky to have somebody pull me up and out and guide me to a better way. What do you have to say, Kathleen?
Oh, that's a really great question. I mean, first of all, it's patience, and it's realizing that our programming from, years as children, like it's not a light switch, it's a dimmer switch. I think that's the biggest thing, is realizing like the fertilizer that grew us as humans doesn't just be washed away, like that is still within us. So you have to work with who you are, and you have to work to say, like, when these negative thoughts come up, instead of being like, why are you thinking that way? You have to sort of be like, oh, okay, hi, like inner critic, like, you were probably really useful when I was a kid, and thank you so much, and let's have a coffee, and then we'll chat, and then you know what I mean, like these things are all parts of us. So as opposed to being really angry, understanding where they come from and understanding that it's a process. I've been in therapy for 20 years, so I've found that unbelievably helpful. But maybe it's talking to like a religious person. If you can talk to like a priest or a rabbi or like whatever that is. You can go to therapy. You can journal. I find journaling really helpful. A really good friend. I think it's just important to have somebody to talk to, whether that is just a journal that you're talking to, because you've got to get your thoughts out of your head, because when they're in your head, they just like cycle around. And when you can see on a page, that can be helpful. There's a book called Reboot, this life coach called Jerry Colonna, and he has this great exercise that when you journal, as soon as you see your, like, he calls it your inner crow, which would be like your inner critic, come out in the journal, write it in a different pen or highlight it. So when you go back and read your journal, you can be like, oh, interesting, that was my inner critic. So you can start to see different parts of yourself, even in the journaling process, because that's what's so great about therapy. When you're there, you say, well, this is what I feel. And then the therapist is like, well, or could that just be like a thought that you're having versus who you are? And you discuss it and you change your thought patterns and your inner dialogue. And that's just, in whatever way possible, you have to find a way to do that, whether that's a friend, or some type of like support group or whatever. And just having a huge amount of patience with yourself, because as I said, I've been in therapy for 20 years and I still think and do things. I'm like, oh my God, why am I thinking and doing that? And then I have to say, instead of getting mad at myself, I say like, okay, interesting. I'm thinking this. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to believe that thought. Like, thoughts are not facts. Thoughts are not acts. Just because you think something doesn't have to mean that you do it. You can think it. And you can think, oh, like, interesting. Okay, I hear ya. But I don't need you right now. That particular thought. And maybe when I was a child, I did, or maybe I didn't, or who knows if it's a coping mechanism, but it's just about reflecting and being aware. And I don't know, I'll give you one more thing that my therapist said to me that was really helpful. She made me do a journal for 2 weeks around working out. Because when I first started, I was quite depressed and it was hard for me to sort of get out of bed. And like, I was going through some hard stuff. And she said, okay, every day when you wake up, I want you to say, what number are you on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being great, 0 being bad, like mood wise. And then she's like, I want you to do things like work out. And then when you're done the workout, I want you to say what number you're at now. So if I went and hung out with a friend, or if I did a workout, or if I went to work. And what I noticed was the things that always made me feel better. It didn't make me necessarily a 10, but if I started at a 1, I'd finish like my workout at a 2. Or if I started at a 2, I'd finish at a 3. Or I'd go for a walk with a girlfriend and then I'd go from like a 3 to a 4. And so what I would see is that mood is not finite, mood is static, and that I had agency over what I could do to change my mood. And so now I'm much better at that. If I'm having those negative thoughts, I'm like, okay, I'm having a thought, but a thought can change. And how am I going to change the thought? Okay, can I go for a walk? Can I do a run? Can I lift some weights? Can I phone a friend? And it's just, I think it's sometimes we feel really that the thought is more powerful than us. And it's really helpful if you can find ways that teach you and teach your brain that you are more powerful than the thought, and that you have agency and you have control. And just because you think something or just because you feel it doesn't make it true and doesn't make it permanent. I don't know.
Yeah. Those are some power words right there. Whoever drops the next question down below, Kathleen is going to send you one of her books. Thank you, ladies. I need to get ready for work. Hoping to catch up on one of my breaks. I love that. Oh, yes. I've been so stressed out about falling back into my old self in this huge life change I'm going through. So I started grabbing the dumbbells to break up the study monotony. Not full sets, but I'm still moving. So before we wrap this up, Kathleen, this goes perfectly into the next question I wanted to ask you, which is, you talk about sneaking in fitness. And a lot of the times we think of, being a fit person means that we need to hit the gym 7 days a week, but you have a different approach to that. So what advice can you give us?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even say that I have a different approach. I have a yes and approach. Like, if you can go to the gym for 2 hours, 5 days a week, go for it. But I know with me, like it's not always possible depending on the season of your life that you're in. So my point is not that going to the gym, is bad. There's nothing bad or good. It's just the most important thing is that you're always moving, and that moving is a non-negotiable. So if you can find ways that every day that you can go to the gym and move, like, as I said, walking on conference calls, going for a walk with a friend, or I have what I call the plug and play method. So it's like you have a list of things that you can do in like 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, in 15 minutes. So if you find like, oh, I have an extra 5 minutes between meetings, and you look at the list and it's like, oh, dance for 5 minutes. You put on some music and you dance around. 10 minutes of yoga. So whatever it is that you can just be like, it takes the cognitive load out of it. So it's not like you have a break and you're like, oh, what should I do? I don't know. And then by the time you figured out what to do, the 10 minutes is gone. It's more like, okay, here's my list, plug and play, move. Just really embracing that some movement is always better than no movement, and little bits of movement add up. And just because you go to the gym in the morning doesn't mean it's okay to sort of sit on your butt for 12 hours and do nothing. Like, you want to, yes, go to the gym, but also make sure to prioritize activity of daily living and do things and feel good. And so much of health is community. So go play a sport, go for a walk, take a dance class. I loved what you were saying, that you're trying different like classes. I have a girlfriend and we call them fit ventures. So we'll just go try different classes. And like, sometimes we don't even like the class, but it doesn't matter because I saw her, I tried something new. It's data. It's like, oh, I don't like that. I won't do that again. Like, it's all just part of having a meaningful and engaged life, is seeing people and doing things and trying things, getting out of your comfort zone, and just, not thinking that things have to be perfect. And that's, I really, honestly, if people get one thing from me today, it's that like, life is never going to, perfect is a mirage. Your fitness is never going to be perfect. Life is never going to be perfect. It doesn't exist. So don't let the aiming or the hoping for perfect stop you from just doing what you can do in this moment, whether that's a glass of water or going for a 10-minute walk or putting on some really good music and dancing around and being like, yeah, like life is good. It's that I have agency. I have that intrinsic ability to do something for myself that is powerful, that will make my day just that little bit better.
Yeah. And I know that today isn't Monday, but you do have something available for people who do want to get moving on Mondays. Can you tell me the name of it again?
Oh yeah. So I just every Monday on Instagram and Facebook, I put up a Monday moves. It's just like a different exercise. So sometimes it's like an Eldoa, which is like a posture move. Sometimes it's a core move, like a Pilates move. Sometimes it's a strength move, and you can go, they're all on YouTube. So if you want to sort of put together a workout, you can go, there's like full 7-minute stretches. There's stuff on the foam roller. It's mainly just, I think that again, it's that sort of piece of here's the knowledge, but then I normally in the video, I'll give like a little bit of motivational tips, and it's just a little bit of Kathleen. So if you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, you're like, do that. And then often doing that little thing will spur you to do more.
Perfect. That's awesome. And I know your website is KathleenTrotter.com. I know that you have a new full body reset program coming out, which I think looks pretty amazing. You currently have another online 5-week course that people can go ahead and click on, and
you're amazing. You need to come and be my PR person. You're like, have all these things. I love it. Yeah. The reset program should come out probably in November. It's a digital course. It's going to be super fun. But the Kick Your Ass with Compassion 5-week, it's like a course on Zoom. It's every Thursday night at 7:30, starting November 10th, and it's just online group coaching. So it's super fun. And the magic kind of happens between. So we have an hour-long meeting on Thursday nights. And then in between for the week, like you tell me your goals. And then so every day you get a little email from Kathleen that's like, how was your daily walk today? Or how are your vegetables going? Right. It's like I become your accountability buddy. And yeah, it's good. It's that community aspect as well. Like great people take it. And it's just fun. It's all just fun.
That's awesome. I feel like we can sit here talking about this all day because there's a million topics we can cover. So we might have to have you back on. But in the meantime,
I would love that.
Great. I just wanted to say thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who has tuned in. If you have any more questions, drop them down below. And then Kathleen's in our group. So I'll make sure that we go ahead and tag you. So thank you again, Kathleen. And I hope everybody has